The story of McLaren begins with a young man from New Zealand named Bruce McLaren. He was born in 1937 in Auckland, New Zealand. From a young age, Bruce loved cars and racing. His father owned a small workshop and service station. Bruce learned how to fix cars there. When he was a child, he had a disease in his hip that kept him in the hospital for a long time. During this time, he dreamed about racing cars. That dream would later change the world of motorsport. Bruce McLaren started racing in New Zealand when he was still very young. He showed great talent. Soon, he moved to England to compete in bigger races. At that time, England was the center of racing, especially Formula One. Bruce joined the Cooper Car Company team. He became one of the youngest drivers to win a Formula One Grand Prix. In 1959, he won the United States Grand Prix. He was only 22 years old. This made him famous in the racing world. Even though Bruce was successful as a driver, he had a bigger dream. He did not only want to drive cars, he wanted to build them. He believed he could design and create better racing cars. In 1963, Bruce founded his own team. The team was called Bruce McLaren Motor Racing Limited. This company would later become known simply as McLaren. The team was based in England, in a small workshop in New Malden, near London. It was a very modest beginning. There were only a few workers, limited money, and basic tools, but they had strong passion and belief. In the early years, McLaren did not start immediately in Formula One as a full team. Instead, they first built cars for sports car racing. Bruce wanted to gain experience as a constructor. The first McLaren racing car was the M1A, built in 1964. It was designed for sports car racing in North America. The car had a powerful engine and a lightweight body. It showed that Bruce and his small team had real talent in design and engineering. During this time, Bruce continued to race for other teams in Formula One, especially Cooper. He was learning more about car design and race strategy. He understood both the driver's and the engineer's side of racing. This gave him a special advantage. He knew what drivers needed from a car. He knew how a car should feel on the track. In 1966, McLaren entered Formula One as a full constructor for the first time. This was a big step. Formula One is the highest level of single-seat racing in the world. It is very expensive and very competitive. The first Formula One car built by McLaren was the M2B. The car was not very successful. It had engine problems and was not very reliable. The team struggled to finish races, but this was a learning period. The team was still small and developing. The year 1966 was important in Formula One because new engine rules were introduced. Teams had to use larger 3.0-liter engines instead of the previous 1.5-liter engines. Many teams faced problems adapting to the new rules. McLaren was one of them. Finding a strong and reliable engine was difficult. The team tried different engines, but none gave strong results at first. Even though the Formula One results were not great in the beginning, McLaren found major success in another racing series called Can-Am. The Can-Am series, short for Canadian American Challenge Cup, was a sports car racing championship held in North America. The rules in Can-Am allowed very powerful engines and advanced designs. This gave engineers more freedom. Bruce McLaren saw this as a great opportunity. In 1966, McLaren built the M6A for the Can-Am series. The car was orange in color. This bright orange color became the official racing color of McLaren. The M6A was very powerful and fast. Bruce himself drove the car. The team dominated the 1967 Can-Am season. Bruce McLaren won the championship. His teammate, Denny Hume, finished second. It was a huge success. McLaren cars were faster and stronger than their competitors. The success continued in 1968 and 1969. McLaren dominated Can-Am racing for several years. The team won 5 consecutive Can-Am championships from 1967 to 1971. The cars had very large V8 engines, often from Chevrolet. These engines produced huge power. The cars were simple but very effective. They were also very reliable. The prize money from Can-Am helped McLaren grow as a company. It gave the team financial strength. While McLaren was winning in Can-Am, the Formula One team slowly improved. In 1968, McLaren achieved its first Formula One Grand Prix victory as a constructor. Bruce McLaren won the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa-Francorchamps in a McLaren M7A. This was a very important moment. It was the first time a McLaren car won a Formula One race. It showed that the team could succeed at the highest level. The M7A used a Ford Cosworth DFV engine. This engine became one of the most successful engines in Formula One history. It was powerful, reliable, and widely used by many teams. The partnership with Cosworth helped McLaren improve performance. With a better engine and growing experience, McLaren became more competitive. In 1968, Denny Hulme also won races for McLaren. Hulme was the 1967 Formula One World Champion. He had joined McLaren and became an important part of the team. His experience and skill helped develop the cars. McLaren finished second in the Constructors' Championship in 1968. This was a big achievement for a young team. During these years, Bruce McLaren worked very hard. He was not only a driver, but also a team leader and engineer. He tested cars himself. He gave feedback to mechanics and designers. He created a friendly but focused team culture. He believed in teamwork and loyalty. Many people who worked with him said he was kind and calm. He did not shout or show anger easily. He listened to others. In 1969, McLaren continued to compete in Formula One and Can-Am. The team built new versions of their cars, improving aerodynamics and suspension. Racing technology was changing quickly. Wings were introduced to create downforce. Downforce helps a car stay on the track at high speed. McLaren experimented with wings and new designs. Some designs were successful, others caused problems. Racing was still dangerous during this time. Safety standards were not as strong as today. Tragedy struck in 1970. On June 2, 1970, Bruce McLaren was testing a new Can-Am car, the M8D, at Goodwood Circuit in England. During the test, the rear bodywork of the car failed at high speed. The car lost control and crashed. Bruce McLaren was killed instantly. He was only 32 years old. His death shocked the racing world. It was a terrible loss for his family, his team, and motorsport. At the time of his death, McLaren was a growing and successful team. Bruce had built something special in just 7 years. Many people wondered if the team could survive without him. He was the founder, leader, and main driver. But the team decided to continue. They wanted to honor his memory. After Bruce's death, Teddy Mayer, who had been part of the management team, took a leadership role. The team continued racing in Formula One and Can-Am. Denny Hulme stayed with the team. The 1970 season was very emotional. Even after Bruce's death, McLaren won races. In Can-Am, the team remained strong. The early years of McLaren were full of learning, risk, and growth. From a small workshop in 1963, the company became a major name in international racing by 1970. They built competitive Formula One cars and dominated Can-Am racing. They developed strong engineering skills. They created a clear identity, including the famous orange color. Bruce McLaren's vision shaped the company culture. He believed in innovation, hard work, and courage. He showed that a young driver from New Zealand could build a world-class racing team. His story inspired many people. Even today, McLaren cars carry his name and his spirit. By 1970, McLaren was no longer just a small team. It was an established racing constructor with international success. The foundations were strong. The company had survived technical problems, financial pressure, and fierce competition. It had won major championships. It had proven its ability to design and build winning cars. The period from 1963 to 1970 was the birth of McLaren. It was a time of bold dreams and hard work. It was also a time of great joy and deep sadness. Bruce McLaren did not live to see the future success of the company, but his influence remained strong. The team he created would go on to win many world championships in the years to come. From a small group of people with a dream, McLaren became one of the most respected names in motorsport. The early victories in Can-Am and Formula One gave the company confidence. The loss of Bruce McLaren gave the team a strong reason to continue. His name would live on, not only as a memory, but as a symbol of innovation and racing excellence. After the death of Bruce McLaren in 1970, many people believed that McLaren might not survive. Bruce had been the heart of the team. He was the founder, the leader, and one of the main drivers. Losing him was a terrible shock. However, the team decided to continue racing. They wanted to honor his dream and protect the company he had built. Leadership of the team was taken over by Teddy Mayer, who had worked closely with Bruce. Mayer was calm and organized. He understood racing and business. He knew that for McLaren to survive, the team had to stay competitive in Formula One. At the same time, they had to manage money carefully. Racing was very expensive, and without strong results, it was difficult to attract sponsors. In the early 1970s, McLaren was still competing in both Formula One and the Can-Am series. They had been very successful in Can-Am during the late 1960s. Drivers like Denny Hulme continued to perform well. Hulme was an experienced and talented driver. He had already won a Formula One World Championship in 1967 with Brabham. His experience helped McLaren during this difficult time. However, by the early 1970s, the Can-Am series began to change. Competition increased, and costs became higher. New technologies such as turbocharged engines were introduced by rival teams like Porsche. These cars became extremely powerful. McLaren found it harder to dominate as they had before. Gradually, the team shifted its main focus toward Formula One, which was the most important racing championship in the world. In Formula One, McLaren was improving step by step. The team developed new cars such as the M19. These cars were not always the fastest, but they were reliable. Reliability was very important at that time because many cars failed to finish races. If a car could finish consistently, it had a good chance to score points. In 1972, McLaren achieved important victories. Denny Hulme and his teammate Peter Revson both won races. Revson was an American driver who brought energy and speed to the team. These wins showed that McLaren was still strong after Bruce's death. The team finished third in the Constructors' Championship that year. It was a sign that McLaren remained one of the top teams in Formula One. During this period, sponsorship became more important in Formula One. In the early years of racing, cars were painted in national racing colors. British teams used green, Italian teams used red, and so on. But in the late 1960s and early 1970s, commercial sponsors began to appear on cars. This brought more money into the sport. McLaren signed sponsorship deals, which helped the team grow and invest in better technology. One major turning point came in 1974. McLaren introduced the M23 car. This car would become one of the most successful cars in the team's history. The M23 was designed with improved aerodynamics and strong engineering. It used the reliable Ford Cosworth DFV engine, which many teams used at the time. The combination of good design and a strong engine made the car very competitive. In 1974, McLaren signed Brazilian driver Emerson Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi was already a world champion. He had won the Formula One World Championship in 1972 with Lotus. Bringing him to McLaren was a big decision. It showed that McLaren wanted to fight for the championship, not just win races. The 1974 season was very exciting. Several drivers competed for the title. Emerson Fittipaldi drove the McLaren M23 with great skill and intelligence. He won 3 races that season and scored points consistently. Consistency was very important under the point system at that time. Even if a driver did not win every race, finishing near the top could secure the championship. At the end of the 1974 season, Emerson Fittipaldi became the Formula One World Champion with McLaren. This was McLaren's first Drivers' Championship. It was a historic moment. Only 11 years after the company was founded, McLaren had won a world title in Formula One. The team also won the Constructors' Championship that year. It was their first Constructors' title as well. This double success proved that McLaren was now one of the best teams in the world. The success continued in 1975. Emerson Fittipaldi remained competitive and won races, but he did not win the championship that year. Still, McLaren stayed near the top of the standings. The M23 continued to perform well. The team showed that their 1974 success was not luck. It was the result of good design, strong management, and talented drivers. In 1976, McLaren signed British driver James Hunt. Hunt was very different from Fittipaldi. He had a bold personality and an aggressive driving style. He enjoyed attention and lived a fast lifestyle away from the track, but inside the car, he was fearless and fast. The 1976 Formula One season became one of the most famous seasons in history. James Hunt faced strong competition from Austrian driver Niki Lauda of Ferrari. Lauda was very precise and technical, while Hunt was emotional and aggressive. The championship battle between them lasted until the final race. During the 1976 season, Lauda suffered a terrible crash at the Nürburgring in Germany. His car caught fire, and he was badly burned. Many people thought he would never race again, but Lauda showed incredible courage and returned to racing only weeks later. Meanwhile, James Hunt continued to push hard with the McLaren M23. Hunt won 6 races during the 1976 season. However, he also had some disqualifications and mechanical failures. The championship battle remained close. The final race took place in Japan at the Fuji Speedway. The weather was very bad, with heavy rain. Lauda decided to stop racing because he felt the conditions were too dangerous. Hunt continued and finished third, which gave him enough points to win the championship. James Hunt became the 1976 Formula One World Champion with McLaren. It was McLaren's second Drivers' Championship and confirmed their place among the greatest teams. The dramatic battle between Hunt and Lauda later became the subject of books and films, making the 1976 season legendary. After 1976, McLaren experienced some more difficult years. James Hunt stayed with the team for a while, but did not win another championship. The M23 was becoming old compared to newer designs from other teams. Technology in Formula One was changing quickly. Ground effect aerodynamics became important in the late 1970s. Teams like Lotus developed cars that used the shape of the underside to create strong downforce. This allowed cars to go faster in corners. McLaren tried to adapt to these changes, but they struggled to match the performance of the best teams. Financial challenges also increased. Formula One was becoming more professional and expensive. Teams needed better wind tunnels, improved materials, and more advanced engineering. In 1978 and 1979, McLaren did not win championships. They were still competitive, but no longer dominant. The team began to realize that major changes were needed. They needed fresh ideas and stronger leadership to compete in the new era of Formula One technology. At the same time, another racing project connected to McLaren was happening in the United States. McLaren cars had previously raced in the Indianapolis 500, one of the most famous races in America. In 1974, McLaren won the Indianapolis 500 with driver Johnny Rutherford. This showed that the team could succeed outside Formula One as well. It strengthened McLaren's international reputation. By 1980, McLaren was at a turning point. They had achieved great success in the 1970s, including 2 drivers' championships and 1 constructors' championship. They had won many races and built famous cars like the M23. However, competition was stronger than ever. Teams like Ferrari, Lotus, and Williams were pushing technology forward quickly. The period from 1971 to 1980 was a time of growth and achievement for McLaren. After the tragic loss of Bruce McLaren, the team proved its strength. They did not disappear. Instead, they grew stronger. They won world championships and became one of the top names in Formula One. This decade showed that McLaren was more than just one man's dream. It had become a professional racing organization with skilled engineers, talented drivers, and strong leadership. The victories of Emerson Fittipaldi and James Hunt gave the team confidence and global fame. At the same time, the challenges of the late 1970s prepared McLaren for future change. The team understood that to remain successful, they would need innovation and new partnerships. The next era would bring major transformation, new leadership, and even greater success. By the end of 1980, McLaren had already written an important chapter in racing history. They had moved from survival after tragedy to becoming world champions. The foundation built in the 1970s would support even greater achievements in the decades ahead. By 1980, McLaren knew it needed change. The team had enjoyed success in the 1970s, but it was no longer leading Formula One. New technology, stronger rivals, and rising costs made competition harder. McLaren needed new leadership, new ideas, and new energy. That change came in the early 1980s with a man named Ron Dennis. Ron Dennis was very different from earlier team leaders. He was highly organized, serious, and focused on perfection. Before joining McLaren, he led a successful Formula 2 team called Project 4 Racing. Dennis believed in strict discipline, advanced technology, and professional management. In 1980, he began discussions to merge Project 4 with McLaren. By 1981, the merger was complete. The team became known as McLaren International, led by Ron Dennis. Dennis wanted to rebuild McLaren from the inside. He believed that success in Formula One required innovation and precision. One of his first big decisions was to work with engineer John Barnard. Barnard had a bold idea: to build a Formula One car using carbon fiber instead of aluminum. At that time, most racing cars used aluminum chassis. Carbon fiber was lighter and stronger, but it had never been used in Formula One in this way. In 1981, McLaren introduced the MP401. It was the first Formula One car with a full carbon fiber monocoque chassis. Many people doubted the idea at first. Carbon fiber was expensive and new, but during a crash in Italy that year, driver John Watson survived a heavy accident with little injury. The strong carbon fiber chassis protected him. This proved the design was not only fast, but also safe. Soon, other teams followed McLaren's example. Carbon fiber became the standard in Formula One. The early 1980s were also the time of turbocharged engines. These engines used compressed air to produce more power. They were extremely powerful but sometimes unreliable. In 1983, McLaren partnered with Porsche to develop a turbo engine funded by sponsor TAG. The engine was called the TAG Porsche Turbo. It became one of the most successful engines of the decade. In 1984, McLaren signed French driver Alain Prost to join Niki Lauda. Prost was intelligent, smooth, and very consistent. Lauda had returned to Formula One after retiring earlier in the 1970s. The combination of Prost, Lauda, the carbon fiber chassis, and the TAG Porsche turbo engine created a powerful team. The 1984 season was one of total domination. McLaren won 12 out of 16 races, Lauda won 5 races, and Prost won 7. The championship battle was very close between the two teammates. In the end, Niki Lauda won the Drivers' Championship by just half a point over Prost. McLaren easily won the Constructors' Championship. It was one of the most dominant seasons in Formula One history. In 1985, Alain Prost became world champion with McLaren. He drove with great intelligence, often focusing on scoring points instead of taking unnecessary risks. McLaren again won the Constructors' Championship. The team showed that their success in 1984 was not luck. They had built a system of excellence under Ron Dennis. Prost won another championship in 1986, although that year was more competitive. Williams and other teams improved, but McLaren remained strong and organized. Ron Dennis demanded perfection from every part of the team. The cars were clean, precise, and carefully prepared. Mistakes were not accepted easily. A major change came in 1988. McLaren formed a new partnership with Honda. Honda had developed a very powerful and reliable turbo engine. McLaren also signed Brazilian driver Ayrton Senna to join Alain Prost. This driver pairing would become one of the most famous rivalries in sports history. The 1988 McLaren MP44 is considered one of the greatest Formula One cars ever built. It was extremely fast and reliable. With Senna and Prost driving, McLaren won 15 out of 16 races that season. Senna won 8 races and secured the Drivers' Championship. Prost won 7 races, but lost the title due to the point system that counted only the best results. The rivalry between Senna and Prost grew stronger in 1989. Both drivers wanted to be number one. Tension inside the team increased. There were disagreements and political conflicts. At the Japanese Grand Prix in Suzuka in 1989, the two drivers collided while fighting for the championship. Prost retired from the race. Senna continued, but was later disqualified. Prost won the championship. After that season, Prost left McLaren to join Ferrari. In 1990, Senna remained at McLaren and fought for the championship against Prost, who was now driving for Ferrari. Again, the championship was decided in Suzuka. Senna and Prost collided once more at the first corner. Both cars went off the track. Since Senna had more points before the race, he became world champion. It was controversial, but it secured his second title with McLaren. Senna won his third world championship in 1991 with McLaren. Although competition from Williams was increasing, McLaren remained strong. The Honda engines were powerful, and the team was experienced. However, after 1991, Honda left Formula One. This created a problem for McLaren. They had to find new engine suppliers. In 1992 and 1993, Williams became the dominant team with advanced active suspension technology. McLaren could not match their technical advantage. Senna still managed to win races through pure skill, especially in wet conditions. His performance at the 1993 European Grand Prix in Donington is remembered as one of the greatest opening laps in history. But McLaren did not win the championship in those years. After 1993, Ayrton Senna left McLaren to join Williams. It marked the end of a powerful era. From 1988 to 1991, McLaren had dominated Formula One with 4 consecutive drivers' championships and multiple constructors' titles. The Senna-Prost years were intense, dramatic, and highly successful. The mid-1990s were more difficult. McLaren used different engines, including Ford and Peugeot, but results were inconsistent. The team was rebuilding again. Ron Dennis remained determined. He invested in facilities and technology. In 1995, McLaren began a new partnership with Mercedes-Benz. This partnership would become very important. By 1997, the team showed strong improvement. Finnish driver Mika Häkkinen became a key part of the team. Häkkinen was calm, fast, and very dedicated. In 1998, McLaren introduced the MP413, designed by Adrian Newey, who had joined from Williams. The car was aerodynamic and extremely competitive. The 1998 season marked McLaren's return to the top. Häkkinen won 8 races and secured the Drivers' Championship. McLaren also won the Constructors' Championship. It was their first Constructors' title since 1991. The Mercedes engine partnership proved successful. Ron Dennis had rebuilt the team once again. From 1981 to 1998, McLaren won multiple world championships and created some of the most iconic cars and rivalries in Formula One history. Under Ron Dennis, the team became known for precision, professionalism, and technological innovation. The carbon fiber revolution, the turbo dominance, the Senna-Prost rivalry, and the return to glory with Häkkinen all happened during this golden era. This period transformed McLaren into a modern racing powerhouse. The team built a strong corporate structure, advanced facilities, and global partnerships. They were no longer just a racing team, they were a high-technology organization. The golden era of Ron Dennis showed that leadership, innovation, and discipline could create long-term success. McLaren had survived tragedy in the 1970s. In the 1980s and 1990s, they became legends. The foundations built during these years would later support the company's move into road cars and even greater global recognition. By 1998, McLaren had firmly established itself as one of the greatest teams in Formula One history. The name McLaren stood for speed, technology, rivalry, and excellence. The period from 1990 to 2009 was a time of big change and growth for McLaren. During these years, McLaren continued to fight for success in Formula One, but the company also made a bold move into building road cars. This decision would change its future forever. The team experienced great victories, painful losses, strong rivalries, and important technical progress. It was a time of both racing glory and business expansion. At the start of the 1990s, McLaren was still one of the top teams in Formula One. With Ayrton Senna leading the team, McLaren won the 1990 and 1991 Drivers' Championships. Senna's intense driving style and deep focus made him one of the greatest drivers in history. His partnership with Honda engines helped McLaren stay competitive. However, by 1992, other teams began to move ahead, especially Williams with advanced electronic systems like active suspension. Technology in Formula One was developing very quickly. In 1993, McLaren faced a difficult situation when Honda left Formula One. The team had to use Ford engines for a short time. Even though the engine was not the strongest, Senna still won several races because of his skill. His victory at the European Grand Prix in Donington Park showed his extraordinary talent, especially in wet weather. But at the end of the 1993 season, Senna left McLaren to join Williams. His departure marked the end of an important chapter. While Formula One was changing, McLaren was working on something very different. Engineer Gordon Murray had a dream of building the greatest road car in the world. Murray believed that a road car could use Formula One technology to create something truly special. Ron Dennis supported this idea. As a result, McLaren Cars was formed as a separate division to build high-performance road vehicles. In 1992, McLaren introduced the McLaren F1. This car was unlike anything seen before. It had a central driving seat, meaning the driver sat in the middle of the car, with two passenger seats slightly behind on each side. This design gave perfect balance and a unique driving experience. The car used a powerful BMW V12 engine. It produced over 600 horsepower, which was extremely high for a road car at that time. The McLaren F1 was also built using carbon fiber, just like Formula One cars. It was very light and very strong. The interior even used gold foil in the engine bay to reflect heat. Every detail was carefully designed. The car was not only fast, but also luxurious and comfortable for road use. In 1998, the McLaren F1 became the fastest production car in the world, reaching a top speed of 240 miles per hour, 386 kilometers per hour. This record made the car legendary. Although the McLaren F1 was expensive and produced in small numbers, it gave McLaren a strong reputation in the road car market. It showed that the company could build more than race cars. It proved that McLaren's engineering skills were world-class. Back in Formula One, McLaren rebuilt its team in the mid-1990s. In 1995, the team started a long-term partnership with Mercedes-Benz engines. This partnership would last many years and bring success. By 1997, McLaren was competitive again. Young Finnish driver Mika Häkkinen became the team's leading driver. Häkkinen was calm, precise, and extremely fast. In 1998, McLaren introduced the MP4-13 car, designed by Adrian Newey. The car was aerodynamic and very advanced. Häkkinen won 8 races and became world champion. McLaren also won the Constructors' Championship. It was a major comeback after several difficult years. The team had returned to the top of Formula One. Häkkinen won his second Drivers' Championship in 1999. That season was intense and competitive. Ferrari and Michael Schumacher were strong rivals. However, Schumacher broke his leg during the season, which changed the championship battle. Häkkinen stayed consistent and secured the title. McLaren proved that it could still compete against powerful teams. The early 2000s brought new challenges. Ferrari became extremely dominant with Michael Schumacher. From 2000 to 2004, Ferrari won multiple championships. McLaren remained competitive, but could not always match Ferrari's consistency. There were many close battles and exciting races, but championships were harder to win. In 2005, McLaren had one of the fastest cars on the grid with the MP420. The team signed Colombian driver Juan Pablo Montoya to join Kimi Räikkönen. Räikkönen, known as the Iceman, was calm and fearless. He won several races that year and fought strongly for the championship against Renault's Fernando Alonso. However, reliability problems hurt McLaren's chances. Even though the car was very fast, mechanical failures prevented Räikkönen from winning the title. In 2007, McLaren signed 2 strong drivers, Fernando Alonso, who was already a 2-time world champion, and rookie driver Lewis Hamilton. Hamilton was young and extremely talented. The 2007 season became very dramatic. Hamilton surprised everyone by fighting for the championship in his first year. He and Alonso had a difficult relationship inside the team. Tension grew between them, similar to the earlier rivalry between Senna and Prost. The 2007 season also included controversy. McLaren was involved in a major spying scandal involving Ferrari information. As a result, the team received a large fine and was excluded from the Constructors' Championship. It was a serious and damaging moment for McLaren's reputation. However, the drivers were still allowed to compete for the Drivers' Championship. The championship battle in 2007 was very close between Hamilton, Alonso, and Ferrari's Kimi Räikkönen. In the final race, Räikkönen won the championship by just 1 point. McLaren missed the title in a painful way. Despite the disappointment, the season showed that Lewis Hamilton was a future star. In 2008, McLaren focused strongly on improvement. Lewis Hamilton became the team leader. The season was very competitive, with Ferrari again as the main rival. Hamilton drove with determination and maturity. The championship battle went to the final race in Brazil. On the last lap, Hamilton passed another car to secure the 5th position he needed. He won the Drivers' Championship by 1 point. It was one of the most dramatic finishes in Formula One history. McLaren celebrated another world title. By 2009, Formula One rules changed significantly. New aerodynamic regulations and hybrid-like KERS systems were introduced. McLaren struggled at the beginning of the season. The car was not competitive. However, the team improved during the year and managed to win races. It showed McLaren's ability to develop and adapt. During this period, McLaren also continued to grow its road car ambitions. After the success of the McLaren F1, the company prepared for future supercars. Although the F1 was not produced in large numbers, it created a powerful brand image. Customers saw McLaren as a maker of extreme performance and advanced technology. In 2003, McLaren also worked with Mercedes to produce the Mercedes-Benz SLR McLaren. This car combined Mercedes luxury with McLaren engineering. It was built in England and became a symbol of cooperation between the two companies. Although it carried the Mercedes name, it strengthened McLaren's road car experience. The years from 1990 to 2009 showed that McLaren was more than just a racing team. It was a technology company capable of innovation in both motorsport and road cars. The company survived intense rivalries, internal conflicts, technical rule changes, and even scandals. It won championships with Räikkönen and Hamilton. It built one of the greatest supercars ever made, the McLaren F1. This era also showed the importance of strong partnerships. The relationship with Mercedes-Benz brought engines, funding, and technical cooperation. The team's headquarters and technology center were modern and advanced. McLaren became known for clean design, high standards, and scientific precision. By the end of 2009, McLaren had won multiple world championships, produced legendary drivers, and built an iconic road car. The company stood at the edge of a new chapter. The next decade would see McLaren fully enter the road car market as a serious supercar manufacturer, while continuing to compete in Formula One. The period from 1990 to 2009 was a bridge between two worlds, racing dominance and road car innovation. It proved that McLaren could fight at the highest level of motorsport, while also creating a dream car for the road. This balance between racing and production would define the company's modern identity. The period from 2010 to 2020 was one of the biggest transformations in the history of McLaren. During these years, McLaren changed from being mainly a Formula One team with a small road car project into a full supercar manufacturer. The company built many new road cars, entered new global markets, and invested heavily in modern hybrid technology. At the same time, its Formula One team faced serious struggles and rebuilding years. This decade was full of ambition, risk, innovation, and learning. At the start of 2010, McLaren made an important decision. The company created a new division called McLaren Automotive. This was not just a small project like the earlier McLaren F1. It was a serious plan to compete with Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Porsche in the global supercar market. McLaren built a new production facility in Working, England, near its Formula One headquarters. The goal was clear: to produce high-performance sports cars using Formula One knowledge and technology. In 2011, McLaren introduced its first modern production supercar, the McLaren MP412C. The name was technical and reflected the company's racing culture. The MP412C used a carbon fiber chassis called the monocell. This made the car light and very strong, similar to a Formula One car. It also had a 3.8-liter twin-turbo V8 engine developed in-house. This was a major step because it meant McLaren was no longer using engines from other manufacturers for its road cars. The MP412C was fast, modern, and comfortable enough for daily driving. It competed directly with the Ferrari 458 Italia. Early reviews praised its engineering and handling, but some critics felt it lacked emotional character. McLaren listened carefully to feedback and improved the car through software updates and mechanical changes. This showed how serious the company was about continuous improvement. In 2013, McLaren revealed its next major project, the McLaren P1. The P1 was part of a new generation of hyperarcs that included the Ferrari LaFerrari and Porsche 918 Spyder. These cars combined petrol engines with electric motors to create hybrid performance systems. The P1 used a twin-turbo V8 engine combined with an electric motor to produce nearly 900 horsepower. It was extremely fast and could accelerate from 0 to 100 km/h in under 3 seconds. The P1 was important because it showed McLaren's commitment to hybrid technology. Instead of seeing hybrid systems as only fuel-saving tools, McLaren used electric power to increase speed and performance. The P1 also had advanced aerodynamics, including a large adjustable rear wing and special body panels to manage airflow. Only 375 units were produced, making it rare and highly valuable. While the road car division was growing quickly, McLaren's Formula One team faced difficult years. In 2010 and 2012, the team was competitive and won races with Lewis Hamilton and Jenson Button. However, they did not win championships. In 2013, Hamilton left McLaren to join Mercedes. This was a big loss for the team, as Hamilton later became very successful with Mercedes. In 2015, McLaren ended its long partnership with Mercedes engines and reunited with Honda. The hope was to repeat the success of the late 1980s, when McLaren and Honda dominated Formula One with Ayrton Senna. However, the modern partnership did not go as planned. The Honda engines were unreliable and lacked power. McLaren struggled badly in 2015 and 2016. Fernando Alonso, who had returned to McLaren, publicly expressed frustration about the car's performance. These seasons were painful for McLaren fans. The team, once dominant, was now often near the back of the grid. Technical problems, poor results, and public criticism damaged the team's image. However, inside the company, changes were happening. Ron Dennis left McLaren in 2016 after disagreements with shareholders. This marked the end of an era. New leadership began to reshape the company's strategy. Zak Brown became a key leader in the racing division. He focused on rebuilding the team culture, improving sponsorship deals, and creating a more open environment. In 2018, McLaren ended its partnership with Honda and switched to Renault engines. Although results were not immediately perfect, the team slowly began to improve. Meanwhile, McLaren Automotive continued expanding its road car lineup. The company introduced a clear product structure with 3 main categories: Sports Series, Super Series, and Ultimate Series. Cars like the 570S became part of the Sports Series, offering strong performance at a lower price point compared to flagship models. The 720S, introduced in 2017, replaced the 650S and became part of the Super Series. The 720S was widely praised for its power, lightweight, and advanced suspension system. The 720S used a new carbon fiber structure called the Mono Cage 2. It also featured a powerful twin-turbo V8 engine producing over 700 horsepower. Many reviewers described it as one of the best supercars in the world at that time. Its combination of speed, comfort, and technology strengthened McLaren's reputation. The Ultimate Series included extreme models such as the P1 and later the Senna. The McLaren Senna, named after Ayrton Senna, was designed for maximum track performance. It had aggressive aerodynamics, large wings, and minimal comfort features. The focus was pure driving performance. Naming the car after Senna connected McLaren's road cars to its racing heritage. During this decade, McLaren also focused strongly on lightweight engineering. Carbon fiber became central to every model. Unlike many competitors, McLaren built all its cars around carbon fiber tubs, not just its most expensive models. This gave the company a unique selling point. Hybrid technology continued to develop. McLaren understood that the future of performance cars would include electrification. Environmental regulations around the world were becoming stricter. Customers also expected advanced technology. The lessons learned from the P1 would later influence new hybrid models beyond 2020. Financially, rapid expansion brought both growth and risk. Building new factories, designing new engines, and launching multiple car models required large investments. McLaren increased production numbers year after year. The company entered markets in North America, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Dealership networks expanded globally. However, high development costs and economic challenges sometimes created financial pressure. The supercar market is sensitive to global economic changes. When economies slow down, luxury car sales can decrease quickly. McLaren had to balance ambition with financial stability. By 2019 and 2020, the Formula One team showed stronger performance. With drivers like Lando Norris and Carlos Sainz, the team regained competitiveness. In 2020, McLaren finished third in the Constructors' Championship. It was their best result in many years. The team atmosphere seemed more positive and united. The year 2020 also brought the global COVID-19 pandemic. This created serious challenges for many companies, including McLaren. Car production slowed, racing schedules changed, and financial pressure increased. McLaren had to secure additional funding and make strategic adjustments to survive this difficult time. Even with these challenges, the decade from 2010 to 2020 transformed McLaren completely. At the beginning of the decade, McLaren was mainly known as a Formula One team with one legendary road car from the 1990s. By the end of the decade, McLaren was a full supercar manufacturer with multiple models, advanced hybrid systems, and global recognition. The company proved it could design and build its own engines, carbon fiber chassis, and hybrid systems. It showed flexibility by learning from criticism and improving products quickly. It survived one of its worst periods in Formula One and slowly rebuilt its racing competitiveness. Most importantly, McLaren established a clear identity for the modern era. Lightweight engineering, racing DNA, and high-technology performance. Hybrid systems were no longer seen as optional. They became part of the future strategy. The experience gained from the P1 prepared the company for even more advanced electrified models in the years ahead. The period from 2010 to 2020 was not easy. It included technical failures in Formula One, leadership changes, financial pressure, and a global pandemic. But it also included innovation, growth, and bold ambition. McLaren proved that it was willing to take risks and adapt to a changing automotive world. By 2020, McLaren stood as both a historic racing team and a serious competitor in the supercar market. The next chapter would focus even more on hybrid and electric technology, sustainability, and long-term stability. The foundation built during this decade would shape the company's future in a world moving toward electrification and new mobility solutions. From 2021 to the present day, McLaren has continued to change and adapt. The world around the company has also changed quickly. New technology, new environmental rules, financial challenges, and strong competition have shaped this modern era. McLaren has worked to secure its future in both Formula One and the supercar market. This period is about rebuilding strength, focusing on hybrid and electric technology and creating long-term stability. At the start of 2021, McLaren was still feeling the financial pressure caused by the global COVID-19 pandemic. Car production had slowed in 2020, and racing events were disrupted. To survive, McLaren had to secure new investment. The company sold part of its assets and brought in new financial partners. This allowed it to continue developing new cars and supporting its Formula One team. It was a difficult time, but the company showed resilience. In Formula One, 2021 was an important year. McLaren used Mercedes engines again, which was a positive change after earlier struggles with Honda and Renault. The team drivers were Lando Norris and Daniel Ricciardo. Norris had grown into a confident and fast young driver. Ricciardo brought experience and race-winning ability. During the 2021 season, McLaren achieved a major highlight at the Italian Grand Prix in Monza. Daniel Ricciardo won the race, and Lando Norris finished second. It was McLaren's first Formula One victory since 2012. The team celebrated a 1-2 finish, which was very emotional for fans and team members. This victory showed that McLaren was competitive again. Although the team did not fight for the championship, it proved that it could return to the top step of the podium. McLaren finished fourth in the Constructors' Championship in 2021, continuing its steady rebuilding process. Meanwhile, McLaren Automotive continued expanding its hybrid technology. In 2021, the company introduced the McLaren Artura. The Artura represented a new chapter. Unlike the P1, which was a limited hypercar, the Artura was designed as a regular production hybrid supercar. It used a completely new platform called the McLaren Carbon Lightweight Architecture, MCLA. It also introduced a new 3.0-liter twin-turbo V6 engine, combined with an electric motor. The Artura showed that hybrid systems would now become normal in McLaren road cars. The car offered strong performance while also reducing emissions compared to older V8-only models. This was important because governments around the world were introducing stricter environmental laws. McLaren understood that the future of performance cars must include electrification. The company also continued to produce special limited models. Cars like the 765 LT, a lighter and more extreme version of the 720S, demonstrated McLaren's commitment to high performance. The LT name, meaning long tail, connects modern cars to the historic McLaren F1 GTR long-tail race car from the 1990s. This shows how McLaren continues to use its racing history as inspiration. In Formula One, 2022 brought new technical regulations. The cars were redesigned to improve racing and allow closer competition. McLaren faced mixed results during this transition. While there were moments of strong performance, the team struggled to match the very top teams like Red Bull and Ferrari. Development speed and technical direction became important issues. During this time, McLaren made changes in leadership to improve its competitiveness. Andreas Seidl had been leading the Formula One team, but leadership shifts continued as the company looked for stronger long-term performance. The organization focused on investing in new wind tunnel facilities and improving technical infrastructure. Modern Formula One success requires advanced simulation tools, aerodynamic research, and efficient teamwork. Financial stability remained a key focus. McLaren brought in new investors and restructured parts of its business. The company separated McLaren Automotive and McLaren Racing more clearly in structure, although they still share technology knowledge. This allowed both divisions to focus on their own goals while maintaining the brand identity. In 2023 and 2024, McLaren showed strong improvement in Formula One performance. Lando Norris became one of the most consistent front-running drivers on the grid. The team introduced major upgrades to its car design, which significantly improved performance during the season. McLaren returned to fighting near the front of the grid more often. Podium finishes became more regular again. The improvement was the result of careful technical restructuring and better development processes. McLaren invested in new facilities, including a modern wind tunnel. This was important because aerodynamic performance is one of the most critical parts of Formula One success. With better tools and clearer direction, the team showed it could recover from earlier struggles. On the road car side, Electrification continued to shape future plans. Fully electric supercars are expected in the coming years. McLaren has announced that most of its future models will include hybrid systems. The company understands that customer expectations are changing. Buyers want high performance but also modern technology and lower environmental impact. However, moving toward electric vehicles is not simple for a supercar company. Batteries are heavy, and McLaren's philosophy is based on lightweight design. Engineers are working on ways to keep cars light while adding electric systems. This includes advanced battery technology and improved carbon fiber structures. Competition in the supercar market is also strong. Ferrari, Lamborghini, Porsche, and new electric car companies are all developing hybrid and electric performance vehicles. McLaren must continue innovating to remain competitive. The brand's strength lies in its racing heritage and engineering focus. In recent years, McLaren has also expanded its racing activities beyond Formula One. McLaren entered the IndyCar series in the United States, returning to a competition it had previously won decades ago. The team also joined Formula E, the electric racing series. Participation in Formula E helps McLaren gain knowledge about electric powertrains and battery systems. This experience can support the development of future road cars. Another important focus for McLaren is sustainability. Modern car companies must think about environmental impact not only from the cars themselves, but also from manufacturing processes. McLaren has taken steps to reduce emissions in production and improve efficiency at its facilities. The McLaren Technology Center in Working remains one of the most advanced automotive headquarters in the world. Leadership changes have continued in the 2020s. New executives have joined to guide the company through financial restructuring and strategic planning. Each change aims to strengthen long-term stability. Running both a Formula One team and a supercar manufacturing company is complex and expensive. Careful management is necessary to balance innovation with financial health. Looking toward the future, McLaren faces both challenges and opportunities. Electrification is unavoidable in the automotive world. Governments are setting deadlines to reduce or eliminate petrol-only cars in many countries. McLaren must adapt while preserving the emotional driving experience that defines a supercar. At the same time, Formula One is growing globally. New races in countries like the United States have increased popularity. Sponsorship opportunities are expanding. McLaren's improved competitiveness in recent seasons positions the team well for this growth. The company's future likely includes more hybrid models, possible fully electric supercars, and continued racing involvement across multiple series. Advanced materials, lightweight battery systems, and improved aerodynamics will be key technologies. From 2021 to the present, McLaren has shown resilience once again. Just like after the death of Bruce McLaren in 1970, and just like after difficult periods in the 1980s and 2010s, the company continues to adapt. The brand remains connected to its core values: innovation, performance, and racing spirit. The modern era is about balance. McLaren must honor its past while preparing for a very different automotive future. The roar of petrol engines may slowly mix with the quiet power of electric motors. Racing will continue to drive technology forward. Customers will continue to expect excitement and exclusivity. In simple terms, McLaren today is a company rebuilding strength while preparing for change. It has learned from mistakes, invested in new technology, and returned to competitiveness in racing. The journey is not finished. The future will bring electric innovation, new leadership ideas, and continued racing battles. What began in 1963 with Bruce McLaren's dream in a small workshop has become a global high-performance brand. The present chapter is still being written. If history has shown anything, it is that McLaren survives by adapting, innovating, and pushing forward. The road ahead may look different, but the spirit of speed and engineering excellence remains at the heart of McLaren's story.